the number one goal rule to be an effective communicator is you have to be a great listener first.
Hey everyone, hope you all are doing great and thanks for tuning into Notes of Design. On today's episode, we have a very special guest from Argentina. Let's welcome Romina Hakim, who is a famous Argentinian podcaster and a radio host to help us spread our mission, spread knowledge, and knowledge should not be hidden behind paywalls. She shared a lot of value on today's episode by giving her special tips and tricks on how to be an effective communicator. As being a designer, one have to be really effective communicator to present their ideas or to work with their team. So stay tuned and you have a lot of special Easter eggs throughout the episode. Happy designing, everyone. Hey Romina, welcome to Notes of Design. It's pleasure hosting you today on our show.
Hi, Ravi. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's such a pleasure to connect with you and your audience. And I hope that they can have a lot of useful information.
Could you just give a brief about you to our listeners?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Romina Hakim. I'm a radio host, podcaster, voiceover talent, and digital communicator. Originally from Argentina, where I had my own radio show in one of the biggest FM stations. Now living in Barcelona. Well, my journey was far from linear. I graduated from fashion design. I had my own pet fashion brand. I worked as a fashion photographer, DJ, because I'm obsessed with music, until I discovered the fabulous world of radio shows. And like I said before, my journey was far from linear because I always had the problem of liking too many things. And when I say many things, is wanting to become a designer, become a dancer, and study criminology. But well, as I grew up, I started giving more attention to those things which I resonated more, where I felt naturally good, where I just get things done without procrastinating. And if you haven't found your thing in life, I can tell you it comes from doing the homework of really get to know yourself and who you are to make that path more clear. So, Ravi, again, thank you for the invitation.
Wow, thank you for inspiring our listeners. Like they too have many confusions regarding what to choose in their path and how to proceed on. But you have really given a quite inspiring example to them. Thank you.
Yes, totally. Like I said, the path is not linear, and whoever is struggling with that, answers come the way.
Exactly true. So coming to today's episode, so we are going to discuss on how to be effective communicators. Because being a designer, if you aren't an effective communicator, you are just a pixel pusher. And Romina, today we'll discuss on few parts of like how to be an effective communicators. So as like communication is really essential and every word we put forward plays a very vital role. So how to communicate clear and short, retaining the information clarity to the opposite person?
Well, good one. Well, nowadays we are bombarded by tons and tons of information. For the first time, we have a big amount of information out there. First thing to have in mind is the destination of that message. It's not the same to write down a newsletter than preparing a presentation for investors or make content for your social media platforms, right? We have to remember it's not about you, it's about them, your audience, your public. So in order to settle some key thoughts, you always have to start with first with a clear intention of that message. Are you asking your social media audience to buy you something? Perhaps you're going to launch your first workshop or podcast as well. I believe that everything you communicate has a main goal. And one of the biggest mistakes of people in general is that we tend to forget about other people's time. And it's our biggest treasure. Time doesn't come back. So whether you sell a product, a service, or you just want to speak your heart out in a video, you must always remember this. We all have met someone in life that just talks and talks and talks without saying nothing, like a smoke cellar. A great example of this that pops out of my mind can be websites, right? About, I don't know, 5 years ago, even a little more, every company or brand that had a website put everything in there. Full catalogs, photos, animation, even music. It was just too much. Today, most of them keep a simple layout, which doesn't mean boring. Simple is not boring. But with a main communication goal or concept. Also, unless you have to, because I don't know, you're an engineer or something, don't use so much of a technical language because it's really hard to process all that info. So now we're going to make like a little imaginary bullet points with my recommendations. First, write down your main communication goal because that defines everything. Think about other people's time first. Make a list of the important information. Don't use so much of a technical language. And also use metaphors. Link to short stories, something that happened to you that is related to the story you're telling. That's the power behind the so-called storytelling that we hear so much nowadays. As a bonus track, as long as you can, express your thoughts. Your unique vision of the world is really important to others. Of course, it's easier said than done, but you gotta start somewhere.
Thank you so much, Romy, for such beautiful insights and imaginary thought points, though. So, like you said, like you should be open about what are your thoughts and things. But being a designer myself, once upon a time, even I was like having a social anxiety that I wasn't able to express my thoughts and things. So, at that time, what would be the best suggestion to do?
Social anxiety, what a theme is. It seems so terrific, so terrific. All I can say is master the skill. I always joke around my friends that if someone looked at me, I don't know, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, I was a completely different person. I was so introvert, kind of shy, and appearing in front of a camera was traumatic. So, how did I cope with that? I pushed myself to overcome. And the way you are now doesn't have to be the one you'll always be. I repeat that again. The way you are now doesn't have to be the one you'll always be. We all have things that push us back and are complicated to improve and are struggling with. In my case, I joined dance classes to put myself in front of an scenario. I watched how other people connected and talked and communicated. If I had to call someone over the phone, I wrote down the things I was about to say, for instance. I even did a stand-up seminar to put myself out there, and no, I didn't die or passed out. I survived. Well, my advice, find a couple activities that you like to overcome that fear. Fear of social anxiety is something really cool that you mentioned, won't disappear overnight. It's like working out. You want firm abs, you gotta work it out, girl. This is not different. I guess that some scenarios are worse than others, like asking your colleague to change that song on the radio is not as big as asking for more money to your boss, right? So some practical advice to lower that nervousness is to practice what you're about to say. Because if you don't know what you're going to say, it's normal that you get nervous. Also, this fear, this social anxiety comes from a place of how much do I let others have an impact on me. We have become addicted to flattery, to be liked by everybody, to search for approval in everybody, in the whole world. And we forget that we haven't come to this universe to guarantee us the approval from everybody. It's a waste of time. It's ridiculous. So stop giving so much power to that apparent rejection. And what if you get denial, a hater or whatever? Just the F word. Forget about it. This is not high school. When what you have to say is much more important than his or her evaluation of you. You're creating things, you're coming out to the world. There's a gorgeous quote that comes from a song from the band Garbage, which I love, that says, "The trick is to keep breathing." So whenever it gets really, really hard, and believe me, I've been there many times, breathe. We do it so mechanically that we forget that it actually gives us clarity, space, peace, all the important things to speak better and more efficiently. It helps us like settle down, accommodate our ideas, breathe. Those are my recommendations.
Thank you, Rumi. Adding to that, like I felt personally like standing in front of mirror and practicing every day for 15 minutes really helped me to be an effective communicator.
Totally, really helps out. Yeah.
Yeah. So coming to our next question, like any creative ways or suggestions that you focus on telling to especially the designers to present their ideas to their clients or to give their problem solution to the larger audience?
Great. So nonverbal, yeah, can be anything from, like you said, a presentation, some collaboration with a digital magazine. I would like to focus on one of the main formats of communication nowadays, that is copywriting. First of all, you really have to make a little research on the audience that will consume that content, because it's not the same talking to a 5-year-old child that some senior executive, right? So whoever thinks it talks to everybody actually reaches nobody. That kind of happened with mass media, television, radio, and stuff. They don't talk to everybody anymore. That's why the niche down is really, really important. And remembering an advice that I said earlier, is about them, not you, and what you want to sell. Couldn't agree more on the 80-20 rule. 20% of the content should be giving out something that inspires, that motivates, that helps others, and only a 20% of what you have to offer. Only 20%. It seems like so little, but it's really effective. Also, writing a killer first line helps and stops people from scrolling down without really paying attention. Newspapers, for example, do this very well. In fact, so well that many times the note inside is kind of crap. But well, the headline gave you like a strong feeling that you had to continue reading, like practicing. You don't have to be a smoke seller, please. It's a nice exercise to start practicing. Actually, experts says that 6-word headliner is great. For example, like keep it minimal and keep it simple, but straight to a point. There are proven formulas that you can find and help us, like Sugarman, Open Letter, PAS, Pastor, that they can be found on the internet. Also, including numbers are attractive, but not too many because kind of is overwhelming. And people part of the communication. People don't want like passive listeners. They want to feel part of it. There isn't one way to do it right, I guess, because every brand, every business, every person is different, and not the same things work for everybody. So it's like trial and error kind of thing.
Thank you, Romy. That was quite insightful, and in sort of the other way, it's really inspired in some or the other way to craft effective content the very next time when I'm putting down up. Coming to a last question. So what are your favorite reads, or what is your favorite technique that you want to suggest to our audience out there?
Well, now I will again make like an imaginary bullet point list or hot tips, because we can imagine in our heads. Like I said before, people are more willing to listen if you make them part of it. Communication is an active process. You gotta make them feel that they can relate to what you're speaking by showing yourself human. They're not robots. We're not robots. or only waiting for you to show up. And no. Another thing is maybe like the number one goal rule to be an effective communicator is you have to be a great listener first. We forget about that. And I'm not talking about just hearing over what the other person has to say and jump back to say something immediately or give your opinion over some topic. I mean, active listeners, because we can always learn from other people's stories, what they have to tell, what they have to say. And there's nothing better and more beautiful than feeling that someone cares about what you have to say. Another suggestion worked with me, reading. It's a skill. To be communicator, you have to read, you have to cultivate yourself as much as you can, because it gives you like a wider vocabulary, synonyms, the power, well, like telling stories. You can relate things and have like a large knowledge of the outside world on a variety of topics. Sometimes you end up talking giving out the most crazy stories to support your tale. Another thing would be to learn the beauty in silence, in pauses, and storytelling. One of my favorite movie scenes from Pulp Fiction is the one where Mia tells Vincent, "You know, you found somebody special when you can just shut the up for a minute and comfortably enjoy the silence." See what I just did? The power of silence is as big as the power of words. So, to be great communicators, we must learn how to place pauses and silence to give the brain some space and air, especially, to process all this information, because otherwise it's just too much. Give emphasis to your words. You have to, I don't know, bring them emotion to that story, not monotone, please. Also, like as kids, we all loved hearing a good story through these emotions. You could feel fear, joy, sadness, and intrigue. We tend to forget about that and smile. What do you think about that?
It was totally magical. Like I was like all gone, like thinking and imagining and hearing all that what you just said. That
It's like coming back to that, coming back to the power to give emotion to your words, to make people feel something. I mean, it will not always be like motivational, inspiring. It can be something else. You gotta find your tone.
it's like more like giving value to whatever you speak or whatever you do.
Yeah, totally. We are emotional people.
Exactly. And we all are connected by a story. A story is something that binds us really well. So at design talks and all, also I tell people to draft a story around a design. Don't just simply present something. You have to be an effective communicator. And the best way to do that is to explain it through a story. Because stories are something that are binding us from the mythological era to till now.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah. Thank you, Romy, for all the time that you have given and so much value that you have given to our listeners out there. And thanks for helping us spread knowledge.
Thank you so much. It was like great, the invitation to your podcast, and well, you gained yourself a follower, because it is so nice when people take the time to provide help and inspire and, I don't know, give something valuable as for real, for people that maybe pay for, I don't know, a course or whatever, and have that thirst of learning and pushing their self further. So what you are doing now is really, really important. It rocks.
Thank you so
So
much, Romy.
yeah, thank you. It was really a pleasure. And well, whoever is listening, thank you so much for your time and sticking around. And you can follow and write me if you like to my Instagram. I'm very active at Romi Hakim _ that is ROMIHAKIM _. On Spotify also I have, well, my podcast, cool playlist. If you're like SoundCloud, LinkedIn, I'm everywhere.
Thank you so much once again, Romy.
Thank you.
Happy designing, everyone.
Happy designing. Thank you.